Hi everyone, welcome to this chat session to learn more about being a sports physiotherapist at NYSI. Today with us we have Andrea. So before we begin, Andrea, could you just briefly introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Andrea. I'm a performance pathway scientist with NYSI with a specialty in sports physiotherapy. I'm 37 years old and I used to do sprint kayaking. And I studied, actually my first degree was in political science and psychology. And after that, I did a master's in rehabilitation science at the University of Brighton to start off as a physiotherapist proper.
Okay. So can you just share with us when do you actually join NYSI?
I joined NYSI in 2017.
Okay. And then what made you choose NYSI?
What made me choose NYSI? I think being a sports, wanting to be a sports physio, there weren't that many institutes in Singapore that allowed me to develop as a sports physio. So I did, after I finished studying in the UK, I did actually 3 years in a hospital community setting, and I quite like working in pediatrics, working with young kids. And so that's why I chose NYSI, because it gave me the opportunity to work with youth specifically.
Okay. So then can you share with us what do you do exactly at NYSI?
What do I do exactly at NYSI? Okay, I think when people think of a physiotherapist, they think of us as people that you see when you're injured. Like, so when you sprain your ankle, then when you see us, we give you some advice, help you understand what exercises you can do to get back to sport. So for example, if you're a netballer, I'm pretty sure that you sprain your ankle multiple times. So you should be an old hand at it, but the initial first sprain, you might still need a little bit of guidance. So that's one aspect of our work as a sports physio, is that aspect of helping you, giving guidance on managing injuries and treating and assessing an injury when it occurs. The other aspects of a sports physio would include helping to actually prevent those injuries from happening. So for example, if you know, in athletics, for example, sprinters often pull their hamstrings. And so as a sports physio, if you're working with the sport of athletics, you might be putting in some screenings or tests to determine whether or not, you need to be working more on that strength of the hamstrings, and working with our strength and conditioning specialists here at NYSI to put in certain exercises into the strength and conditioning program, which we would term essentially prehab. So that's helped to prevent injuries. And then the next level of sports physio work would be at level of helping to enhance performance. So that's again where we would look at, okay, what are the characteristics of the sports? What shapes do those sports require? So for example, in diving, for example, or most sports, you need a very strong pillar shape, or maybe like for water polo, you need to have a squat shape because you're doing the 8 meter in the water. So we look at whether or not the individual or most of the athletes in the sport have the required range to form the shapes that the sport demands, and then whether or not there are certain battery of tests that strength tests that we can put into play to kind of understand whether or not they have the strength to repeatedly form those shapes. To then again both help prevent injuries and also enhance their performance in the sport.
Okay, I see. So then maybe share with us, how do you come to realize like you want to be a sports scientist in this particular field that you're in?
That's an anonymous, how do you pronounce that word?
Ominous.
Ominous, yes, that's it. Question that you just asked there, sorry.
Well, tell me more.
How did I come to realize I wanted to be a sports scientist in this, become a sports physio? Okay, I think part of the reason why I became a physiotherapist, probably like many of you, those that might be listening, is because I had injuries as a kayaker myself, and I realized that I found that there was a difference between a good physio and a not so good physio, but actually over time you realize that actually it's also different styles of working, and finding what works for you. Not saying that you should go physio shopping, but yeah. So why a sports physio and not say a physiologist or strength and conditioning specialist? I think not a physiologist because I'm not very good at numbers in terms of like calculating energy systems and stuff like that, but also yeah, just trying to, I think really I like to solve problems or puzzles, and being a physio, it's quite busy. Being a sports physio is trying to understand the human body, why injury occurs or how we can help prevent injuries, and trying to solve that overall puzzle and working with other sports scientists. So yeah, I don't think that one profession holds all the answers to help bring sport to the next level. But yeah, for me, sports physio helps provide a little bit of that.
Okay. So can you share with me like what was this pathway that you took to get to where you are today?
The path that I took to get to, I took an unusual route, like I said. So early on, I said that I studied political science and psychology, thinking, oh, I want to be a foreign service diplomat or something like that.
Okay.
But also was quite interested in psychology and the motivation and behavior. And I did a little bit of cognitive science research, but I realized soon enough that a desk job wasn't for me. So I needed to take a job that was a bit more on the move. And so sports physio was being a physiotherapist was a bit more of a natural fit from there. Yeah. So I then went overseas to study, and the course that I did allowed me to get a physiotherapy qualification within 2 years instead of the usual 3 or 4 years. So it's less holidays, but being a mature student, then just realize maybe you don't need that much partying, and you just want to really get to be doing, I guess what you decided to do as a career, I guess. Yeah.
Okay, so looking back on this like entire journey, or even the time you are with NYSI, were there any interesting or funny stories you want to share?
Interesting or funny stories? I think the games that really there are probably two things that really stood in my mind. The first was getting to go as part of the medical support team for the Youth Olympic Games in 2018 in Argentina, apart from having access to really good steak and coming back with a little bit of a higher cholesterol level. So everything in moderation, that's what I would say. But yeah, being at the Youth Olympic Games, it was really interesting to then be there and see and meet and talk with other sports physios, other sports doctors and stuff from other countries and in the different sports, and understand how they came to be at the games, and understanding sharing those stories and those journeys with those physios and doctors. Yeah. The second one was, I think, again in 2018, all of this is pre-COVID. It's quite sad, but a very real thing, I think, for those in the sports industry in Singapore. Was 2018 Asian Games in Indonesia, because the last time round when I was in Indonesia was at the 2011 Southeast Asian Games, and that was my last competition as a sprint kayaker. So it's going one round as an athlete and coming back to the same country, a little bit different games, but as part of the support team. And also it was really special because it was also the games that where my two younger sisters also competed at, and one stopped shortly, or maybe a couple of years after that, but one still continued on. So it was nice to be at the games as a support staff, but also have athletes there that are family, but yeah, also working with other athletes and coming one full circle.
Do you get to support your sisters?
Yeah, actually, I was for the 2018 Asian Games in Indonesia. We were in Palembang, and that was where kayaking was being held as well. So, but I didn't just support kayaking. We did support the other sports as well, like rowing. I think there were other water sports, and I can't remember what other sports. Bowling, I think, was also there. Yeah.
Okay.
Was it bowling? Yeah, I think so. But yeah.
Okay. So do you have any like words of advice for budding sports scientists?
Words of advice. I think you need to be brave enough to carve your own path sometimes. If it's something that you really want, then it's never too late to start that journey. Because like you see, I did a degree and then worked for a few years, and then yeah, another. So it's never too late to start if it's something that you really want. You just need
Okay.
to find a way.
All right. So one final question. If you were to recruit someone to join your department, how would you do it? Or what kind of person are you actually looking out for?
What kind of person am I looking out for? Wow, that's a tough question. I think, to be honest, the learning curve to be a sports scientist, if you don't watch sport, is really, really, really hard. So I think that person needs to have either participated in sport at a certain level, or be watching lots and lots of sports, because you need to be able to understand movement as a physio. That's really quite key. You need to be able to understand movement. You need to be able to observe movement. So part of watching sports, you're observing like what are the movements that are occurring in the sport, and you're kind of like going and guessing, is that gonna be a problem later on? Or, you know, as a physio, we say one of our occupational hazards or occupational thing is that you look at people walking and we try and think, okay, does that person have some problem going on if we look like they're not really
Right.
walking normally or something like that. So yeah, need to be interested in sports for one, either participating or watching it, and yeah, be able to understand and observe movement, because I think it's going to be very hard if you don't.
Okay, with that, we'll come to the end of the questions. Thank you for sharing with us today, Andrea. Bye.